All right, we start with the Daily Nation. There's health in crisis. That's a big story this morning. Now, this is what CS Nakumincha has to think about. Striking doctors, paralyzed services in public hospitals. Also, Keme wants state to revoke E-Team's directive. There's private hospitals in rural areas that have rejected NHIF cuts, and chief rollout put off as court case against it starts. You can see exactly what that is essentially. Now, you're going to read that story on page 6 and 7 of the Daily Nation this morning, and that's what we delve into this morning. There is a story here on housing levy facing yet another legal hurdle. This is after President William Ruto assented to the affordable housing bill at State House Nairobi on Tuesday. That's exactly what it is. Story has been covered on page 2. I mean, which way is it going to go for President Dr. William Ruto? Because, well, we've been in the courts, we are back to the courts, and it seems as if we're going to be back to the courts again. We'll be telling you that this morning on page 7. Flu or COVID, doctors warning amid outbreak. Surge in respiratory infections raises alarm. Story has been covered on page 7. Coupating strike threat of a school cash delays. Teachers vow to down tools and a second term. A story has been covered on the back page of the Daily Nation. Those are the biggest stories here on the Daily Nation again. The big story here is how you're going to read that story here on pages 2 and 3. RUTO's affordable housing program bid facing new legal hurdle. This is what they're saying. The act is blind to the fact that employers are already under legal obligation to provide accommodation to their employees or to pay sufficient money as rent. That's what the petitioners are saying, and that's according to the new petitions then that have now sitting at the court. There's also an interesting story on page 3 on top of that story on our state's decision to send monthly stipends to elderly via M-Pesa has been opposed. You're also going to read that story on page 3. Okay, let's move over to the Standard this morning, where the story is not so fast, Mr. President. Kenyans rush to court just a day after President Ruto assented to the affordable housing bill, saying the new law is discriminatory, ambiguous, and it treats public funds and land like a business. They also contend the national government is usurping national government the roles of counties in provision of housing, and that is KRA that is supposed to collect taxes. Story has been covered on page 4. March 19th was the day when the president assented to the housing the bill, paving the way for collection of levies, and it is expected 1.5% the amount of money the employees will pay as their gross salaries, an amount that will be matched by the employer. I'm going to read that story on this particular newspaper on page 4, and there's a breakdown of grounds in the petitions that we're going to go through this morning as well, just to make you understand exactly where we're coming from. Story on page 6 and 7. Kenya Kwanza members of parliament now admit to passing bills that they may not have read. Story has been covered on page 6 and 7 this morning on the Standard. It's interesting that this is something that we're getting open to right now, a time when majority of them were complaining about how these bills were going through the National House. Story has been covered on page 6 and 7. You can read that story also on our website on www.lookuptv.co.ke. Heavily covered there as well. The drama festivals for the lovers of theatre, they're back now. Learners also economic woes in schools drama. You're going to read that story on the themes that learners or high schools in the country presented in the national drama in the drama festivals. Patients' pain, more doctors join strike. Story that we're going to talk about this morning on a deeper length. Story has been covered on page 2 of the Standard this morning as well. Now, that's exactly what it is that you're waking up to in terms of your news. In terms of your news this morning, yes, it is newspapers, and majority of them are being covered on www.lookuptv.co.ke. That's it. take a tiny breather. Once we come back, we go straight to the newsroom this morning. Kenya Power Managing Director Joseph Sirold appeared before the National Assembly Committee on Energy to answer to questions on the controversial 1 billion shillings used for electricity connectivity in the country, as revealed by the Auditor General Nancy Gathungu. Stanley Lugaria opens up.
Committee on Energy chaired by Mwala lawmaker Vincent Musau Elias Kawaya has directed Joseph Sirold to appear again with satisfying submissions in the costing queried projects by Auditor General Nancy Gathungu's last year annual reports and financial statements, with Sirold claiming that the over 1 billion shillings payment from customers were received under subsidy program, which was since stopped, hampering the power connection process across the country.
And the company has had a lot of challenges in this material availability, mainly because of litigation.
The committee affirming funding transfer from Kenya Power to Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation as it stamped its authority on not allocating the powerman more money, but instead claims it has initiated mechanisms through a bill before Parliament to ensure the parastatal outsourced professionals to provide connection materials and services set to bolster revenue collection, increase service delivery as it ensures more Kenyans are connected.
Entities so that they can sensitize members of the public on this, because you see some of these members of the public have been waiting for those meters installation for 2 years.
I have a problem where some last mile projects were left hanging. They were not even completed, yet we are speaking about the last mile even after 11 years.
But additionally, some customers were affected by the change of government policy on connections and withdrawal of connectivity subsidies. You know, the structure of implementation for them was based on government subsidies. So when that was withdrawn, of course, it throws the project into off balance. So such customers were translated into the last mile connectivity program, which has also faced delayed exchequer disbursement.
The power supplier alleges a shortage of materials to connect more than 21,700 customers seeking electricity, including those who have been on the wait list for the past 11 years. As the committee raised it as a concern about any existing reimbursement mechanisms for customers who had paid for over 35,000 shillings, but instead got connected under the last mile program.
Customers had paid for connection, not for consumption. What is your policy around compensating these customers equally? Because now the other customers who are Kenyans who had not paid anything have also benefited from the last mile program.
A policy that touches on how they are to be compensated. But what we do is we engage these customers. Those who paid 35,980. The customers were engaged.
Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv.
Kissy County Governor Simba Arati has nominated Elijah Obebo for the position of Deputy Governor following the removal of Robert Monda from the office. Confirming the nomination of Kissy County Assembly Speaker Philip Nyanumba noted that the selection is awaiting approval by the Assembly. The former Deputy Governor Eric Monda has since moved to court to overturn the decision.
Mr. Elijah Obebo. Honourable members, pursuant to Article 179, subsection 2 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and the Standing Order number 185, subsection 4, I hereby commit the nomination of Mr. Rich Obebo as the Deputy Governor of Kissy County Government to the Committee on Appointment for vetting and report back to this House within 14 days.
I just hope that the right procedure was followed, and I pray if this is what is going to help our county government to deliver, then so be it, because we have engaged in a pull and back and forth, but we don't want to delay development anymore, because they are saying that the fights in the county between the executive and the assembly is what's delaying our development. If this is going to help our county government to deliver, then we pray that the county assembly does the due process, and I just hope the legal process was followed.
Transport and Roads Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has ordered a fresh investigation into the public service vehicle drivers to address the recent surge in road accidents nationwide, which have claimed many lives and left many more seriously injured. Murkomen was among other cabinet secretaries, including Education CS Ezekiel Machogu, who appeared before the Senate to respond to questions regarding the different ministries.
Appearing before the Senate, Murkomen directed NTSA and the police to step up efforts in road enforcement nationwide and to impound non-compliant vehicles that do not cooperate with the road safety management system.
I believe the new direction will help us to be able to deal with this menace. But last, Mr. Speaker, just to emphasize, even this tractor menace, including driving on the roads, Mr. Speaker, the statistics show that most of the accidents as a result of drivers' behavior. Mr. Speaker, when I announced last year that the drivers will be retested and that you will not get a certificate, the driving license retested, there was hue and cry.
Additionally, Murkomen mentioned that Kenya Airways is in the process of improving its business after the economic downturn caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, with profits amounting to 998 million Kenyan shillings.
The growth was fueled by the 56% increase in group revenue, reaching an impressive 75 billion. Additionally, our passenger numbers surged 2.3 million, an impressive 43% growth from 1.6 million. And our earnings before interest, tax and depreciation and amortization and rent costs witnessed a commendable upswing of 7 points.
On his part, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu stated that the education sector continues to improve after recruitment of 56,750 teachers since taking office.
Up to now, we have been able to recruit 56,750 teachers, right from primary to junior school all the way to senior school. And
Matava, Lookuptv.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has called on security officers to deal with armed bandits and terrorists ruthlessly sweeping Waraka, where he commissioned the first batch of modern security equipment worth 7.9 billion shillings. Kindiki calls on officers to attack before they are attacked.
The government has in the last 6 months invested 7.6 billion and will spend another 29.4 billion in the next 3 years under the Police Equipment Modernization Program to acquire sophisticated, protected and mobility equipment. Speaking during a commission to dispatch the first batch of equipment in Lamu County, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has stated that the government is committed in ensuring the service to acquire modern equipment to neutralize firearms from terrorists.
I am also authorized to announce that in another 1 month, we will also be receiving the second batch and we will commission the same equipment in this manner that we have done today. Going forward, security officers in the front line are directed to act mercilessly and thwart the work of bandits.
Inspector General Japheth Koome has assured the CS on the commitment of the police task force in capturing bandits and improving the nation's security.
I assure you, the members of the National Police Service are committed service officers. They are patriotic and they are ready to discharge their mandate of protecting this country, protecting the property of our people, protecting the lives of our people. That is a mandate I can tell you without fear of contradiction that they discharge without fear or favor. Anytime you visit us in any of our facilities is a morale booster. On behalf of these officers, we are lucky to have you.
Faith Charles, Lookuptv.
Families of the 34 identified bodies of Shakahola victims will start receiving the bodies from 26th of March next week for burial. Speaking at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital Funeral Home, Government Chief Pathologist Johansen Oduor said the plans are underway to offer counseling to the family members before releasing the bodies to them.
The government will from next week Tuesday start releasing bodies of victims of Shakahola massacre to relatives for burial. Speaking to journalists in Malindi Funeral Home, Dr. Oduor said that the identified relatives had been informed and they will get psychosocial support before the bodies are released to them, adding that the process will include logistics.
And we are going to start releasing the bodies from next week on 26th. The process include logistics, which we are currently undertaking this week, which is organizing for counselors who will counsel these people and also contacting the relatives who will come here for the purpose of taking their loved ones.
He also said that relatives will have to present themselves with letters from their respective chiefs and the persons who gave out the DNA samples for them to be given the bodies. The chief government pathologist added that bodies that will not be claimed by the relatives after some time specified by the law will be buried by the government.
They have to come with a letter from the chief so that we can be able to identify these persons as the real relatives to these victims. Secondly, they'll have to come with the person who donated the DNA, because this is a person who was directly linked to the deceased. So upon coming, we'll counsel. We'll have them identify the body, then we'll release the body to them.
Among them is a man who lost 8 loved ones, 5 of whom have been identified through DNA. He has also lauded the government's decision to give them bodies of their loved ones so that they will give them proper send-off, adding that it has been a long time for the process to be complete, but now he has a reason to smile again.
We lost 8 members, and 5 of them were able to be identified through DNA. And today I'm here with the journalists, and we have managed to see the DCI, RUTO, and the doctor.
Shamila Baraza, Lookuptv.
President William Ruto has confirmed there will be a delay in the disbursement of subsidized fertilizer to farmers during this planting season. Speaking during the Kakamega County Investment Conference, the head of state has revealed the consignment of fertilizer that was expected in the country early this month has experienced transit challenges in the Red Sea. Farmers will now wait until April 10th to have their full share of the fertilizer. Henry Tende with more.
This week has seen farmers across the country ask hard questions, with fears growing over the fate of the planting season, occasioned by the unavailability of the subsidized fertilizer in NCPB depots in the country. As a direct response to these fears, President Ruto has now confirmed the worst possible news, that subsidized fertilizer will experience unprecedented delay until 10th of April this year.
The fertilizer subsidy program is on course. We've had challenges because of intermittent supply. Fertilizer we were expecting early this month will be arriving I think by the 10th of April because of the challenges we have in the Red Sea, but we have looked for alternative sources.
As farmers across the country continue preparing their land for the planting season, some areas have already witnessed the onset of rainfall, and President William Ruto has appealed to the concerned farmers that the government is working around the clock to ensure they have the required fertilizer.
And I want to assure the farmers in Kenya that government of Kenya will make sure the Ministry of Agriculture is working round the clock to make sure that every farmer gets the requisite fertilizer before the season is over.
Far from fertilizer, President Ruto has committed 120 billion into the transport network in the country.
In this year's budget, because of the development of roads across Kenya, the government of Kenya will be committing 120 billion Kenya shillings for development of roads across Kenya. Amongst those roads, at the priority list that I was given by the Kakamega leadership.
Kakamega County in particular will benefit from a 2.5 billion electricity project that will seek to power over 40,000 households in the county.
Before the end of this year, the government of Kenya will be expending a program that is going to commit us to about 10 billion shillings to build a new transmission line from Kibos, Masaka to Kakamega, complete with a station that will ensure predictable, reliable energy and electricity to Kakamega County.
Henry Tendanyula, Lookuptv.
Now, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS, has accused the Kenyan-based regional fertilizer merchant of fraud after the firm allegedly supplied substandard fertilizer to the National Cereals and Produce Board. KEBS Managing Director Esther Ngari revealed that the GTC fertilizer brand being distributed under the government subsidy program has not been certified by the agency, as Mervyn Getembe now reports.
To confirm that the Kenya Bureau of Standards, who are the first team to meet out of the many institutions that we've invited, have confirmed that the standard they issued is not the one that was found on that particular commodity.
The Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS, has taken steps to prevent farmers from purchasing fake fertilizers. This is according to KEBS Managing Director Esther Ngari, who before the Departmental Committee on Agriculture revealed that a select brand of fertilizers being distributed under the government subsidy program known as GTC has not been certified by the agency.
Is there any product that you can buy from anywhere and rely on their certification? Like if a product is certified in Uganda and Tanzania under the East Africa Trading Protocol, would it land here in Kenya with their GPC?
Yes, it would, under the mutual recognition agreement.
Okay, so have you checked that?
It would have the mark notified under the East African community. So if it is from Tanzania, it would have the TBS mark. If it's from Uganda, it would have the UNBS mark.
Ours as our what?
The S mark, the standardization mark.
Okay, so you are saying this is just another level of fraud. Besides the product itself, there is also fraudulence of the name.
It is fraud.
Ngari now says initially the company had complied with all requirements, which prompted the agency to issue them permits to supply organic fertilizer, but later committed fraud by violating this.
We started our sampling on 5th of February. The sampling, so we took 59 samples from all over the country. And then when results started coming in and we noted the failure, on 8th of March, we suspended the permit that was being put on that product.
Following the intelligence, NCBB sampled the product in over 59 warehouses across the country, which led the suspension of the product permit amid fears that the product may still be in circulation.
It's actually not an organic fertilizer. It is not a fertilizer, as it were, because they have analyzed the components that make up this particular product, and they found it's a diatomite, and diatomite is not necessarily a fertilizer.
Mervyn Getembe, Lookuptv.
Part of the challenges that President Dr. William RUTO is facing is that. But there's more. Because as we start this morning, you see the courts have to sort of temporarily stop the implementation of SHIV, because there's already a court case in court that has been opened up, that the courts have to listen to it before they clear the government for the implementation of SHIV. One challenge that the president is facing today as we start. It was not too fast, because again, the petitioners have gone now to court again to petition the government to completely scrap the implementation of the housing levy, which the president now has sent it into law yesterday, because they say it is discriminatory. We'll be telling you how. But then on top of that, there is a doctor strike currently in the country that is paralyzed healthcare services in Kenya. A simple question is this: when is the president going to speak about it? As simple as that. He's been very fast to speak about the accident cases in the country. He's been very fast to speak about the fertilizer issue in the country, and he's saying, well, he's going to address it. But when it comes to the implementation of healthcare services in the country, again, which essentially will be important to talk about because chief respect on that, the president has been somewhat silent on it. So that's the question that we're asking this morning. Kenya's health crisis. Why is the president silent? All right. This morning we're joined by Lucy Moria, who is the CEO, founder, the Kenya Pro Aging Organization, governor's expert and politician. We're also joined by Harrison Manga, who's the country director, Media Focus on Africa. Also joining us shortly in the studio is Modoni Nyaga, who's a governance and Africa development enthusiast, who's a politician as well. As we ask ourselves the question, what is going to take the president to speak on the healthcare crisis in the country? Doctors across the nation, as of today, and they're saying that tomorrow is when they're going to go to the mother of strikes in the country. They are not in hospitals. Reason? A CBA that goes all the way back to 2017, and now there are calls for Nakhumicha to step out of office because she has failed, as they say, to avert this current strike. Question: why is the president silent? Talk to us at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba once we come back.
Buy Credo Chap Chap across all networks bila stress. Go to M-Pesa paybill number 33000. Na uweke account number yako na namba ya simu that you want to recharge. It's quick, convenient and hassle-free. In just a few clicks, buy airtime. M-Pesa paybill 33000. Account your number to stay topped up and connected anytime, anywhere. Chap chap. University of Nairobi is a distinguished institution of higher learning dedicated to nurturing your intellectual curiosity and pushing the boundaries of knowledge. From state-of-the-art laboratories to modern libraries equipped with the latest resources, we provide you with the tools you need to succeed. Choose from a wide range of programs designed to prepare you for challenges of tomorrow's world. Whether in STEM, humanities, business, or the arts, our strong industry connections and career service support will help you translate your education into meaningful career opportunities upon graduation. Join a vibrant community of scholars from around the world, fostering cultural exchange, collaboration, and lifelong friendships. Book your space now for September intakes. Log in to https://www.uonbi.ac.ke for a wide range of courses to choose from. You can also contact +254 020 491 0000 or email us at pr@ounbi.ac.ke.
Tere, mambo ni mawili: kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
Bua muka wemse. Nini mbaya? Wewe kwani wani vile dereva anaendesha gari vibaya? Lazima tususe. Anaendesha gari na kwa simu the whole time hata angalia barabara. Iliyopita peke yake watu zaidi ya 3000 walipoteza maisha yao barabarani kwa sababu ya tabia kama kama hizo. Hautatuangamiza tukiona.
Naomba msamaha, tutampeleka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa twende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
And we are sharing about the need for revival.
It means that it's a fire, a particular kind of fire that a nation or a person was walking in, but they're no longer walking in that fire. So when we say it is to live again, it is where God rekindles that fire inside that person and awakens that person to come to a level where God wants them to operate in.
There's need for us to come back. It's a comeback to where we were. It's a comeback to that first love. It's a comeback to, in fact, a revival in essence means restoration of the presence of God.
We really need the word of God. It's the word of God that will bring the revival that we need.
So if as a church we can bring the right teaching on the altar, then a revival will be preparing and be ready for the revival.
If we don't reveal Christ in our services, we are empty.
We are empty.
All right. Welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Thank you very much for taking your time then to be with us this morning. There's just a lot that we are going to look at this morning, but let's talk about the crisis that is currently going on in the country. Doctors are not happy. In fact, to put it in plant terms, doctors are on strike, and they say this current strike is indefinite. They do not know when they're going to come back. Now, let me tell you what was happening yesterday, because I'm also part and parcel of those who've been affected in this current strike. For those of us who've been having patients in hospitals that needed critical care at this particular point, there are two options that have been open to us. Number one, for those patients who are somewhat stable, we've been advised to discharge them. Number two, for those patients who've been requiring critical care in majority of these hospitals without essentially mentioning the names of these hospitals, there is already a communique to the families and the next of kin of these patients to look for a plan B or C if your B is not going to work. And that as of yesterday. So majority of us who've been in hospitals then have been forced to look for plan B, because doctors currently as it is, even those who've been offering critical support in these hospitals have joined the ongoing strike in the country. That's where we are as of now, and for some foreseeable time now, because the doctors have said they'll continue with the ongoing strike in the country. So the question though is, the president has been fast to speak on other issues in the country. Number one, the housing the bill that he has sent to the other day is still continuing to preach the gospel that indeed all hustlers in the country are going now to get access to affordable housing. But what he has not spoken about, even as he continues also to speak about the accidents in the country, is this crisis that is continuing in the healthcare sector in the country at that time when they want to roll out SHIF, which, if you do know, has a human resource factor to a very high percentage. So this morning we ask, why is the president silent? All right, now joining us in the studio then to talk about this particular conversation is Lucy Moria, HSC, CEO, founder, the Kenya Pro-Aging Organization, NGO, and a government expert and politician. Lucy, how are you doing?
Good morning, Simba.
Happy to have you around today.
Thank you
Also
so much.
joining us this morning is Harrison Manga, who's the country director, Media Focus on Africa. Harrison, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Simba.
Lucy, I'm going to begin from a very basic point. That the president is silent. Is it okay for us to make that assumption that the president is silent? Starts there, ends there.
Yes, he is. He's very silent on something which is very, very important. More important than even the things they are paying attention, because health comes first. We eat so we can remain healthy. We get treated so we can remain healthy. We're looking for human power.
Yes.
It's when people are healthy. And we're talking about road carnage, people must be healthy. So all these ministries, all these issues that talking about, including the crisis of arresting people who heckle in public meetings, that is, for our government, it's a priority. So he's been silent. I think the president should have handled this the longest. If there's anything our poor doctors are getting, it is threats.
Yes.
You can imagine our old minister threatening doctors. They are not even enough. They do their best. The last time they got an increase in their salaries is 7 years ago. The kind of numbers they're handling.
Yes.
Like now it has become like it's every day we're having road carnage. And the minister yesterday was talking about these people when they get this accident, emergency, Sanjot, and they expect the same people, the same doctors. The doctors work 24 hours round the clock. I'm sure even the president slept and woke up in the morning to talk. But there's a doctor who ambaye alilala kwa kazi usiku mzima. You can imagine, they have no time for their families, they have no time for themselves, but they live the poorest. They have huge numbers of people to handle. Some hospitals even without mortuaries, like my county. And yes, so I think in a normal circumstance, in a normal case, where leadership really is there for the people. These are poor Kenyans that you promised heaven. You promised the patient that they will have medications and everything. Now these are the ones who have become victims. They are torn between doctors who want money before treatment. The hospitals, the private hospitals, want money before treatment. This case needs to be handled, not politically, but it needs to be handled in a very different way.
Yes.
Like you really care.
Does it?
You can. How far can you go if your health is not okay? How can the Minister of Transport and Roads work without talking about hospitals? How can you talk about fertilizers when people are dying?
Yes.
Like I saw yesterday in Mombasa, you go to the pregnant mothers are coming, no one is attending them.
Yes.
Some of these are very much these are natural emergencies that a doctor must be there.
Yes.
The doctors we have in the country, they are not even enough. And that's why we are having doctors or medical fraternity leaving the country and going for, and then we hear, oh, tumewatafutia kazi huko nje, then they leave the country. We do not even have enough. I think one doctor outdoes like 10,000 patients. We're talking about real doctors. And remember, these doctors, they are the ones who have invested in themselves the longest, even more than you, journalists.
Yes.
A doctor minimum years to be in school is 6 years, minimum. It is 6, 8, 10 years in school. And now what they get, not an insurance cover, they will not get not even good housing. If anything, the little salary that they have, it has to be deducted like 52% by the taxes. I supported the doctors 100% because Kenyans must live decent life. They must go to a hospital that they were promised and find medication, not just medication. It is a person to prescribe and administer to them.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
Harrison, Just before we go to the specifics, there's also another CS who've been put at the center of this particular conversation. Is it okay for us to make the assumption that now, indeed, the president is silent on this particular issue? That let it play out, because there is money involved in it, and chances are that we don't have that money.
The president need not necessarily speak if because he has people that can handle such matters authoritatively and conclusively. So you have a substantive cabinet secretary, responsible for health, and then you have, a principal secretaries and the staff. So ideally, the president would not necessarily need to speak, because then the people that he has tasked with the responsibility, if they did their work, then the president would never need to speak, because then we would not have to deal with the kind of crisis that we are dealing with right now. So the reason why we are yearning, or seemingly yearning to hear the president say something about this, already tells you that the people that are in charge of the day-to-day running of the affairs in the health docket are definitely not doing what they're supposed to do. But I think for me, this crisis reminds me of the saying that I will not necessarily listen to what you tell me. I will look at action on the ground to be able to tell whether the things you're saying, you mean them or you don't mean them. And I think that this crisis exemplifies the reason why we should always take political promises with a pinch of salt. And I think the history of our country tells us that political promises oftentimes are not things that fully followed through. We're talking about launching a very quote-unquote revolutionary social health insurance scheme in Kenya. We're talking about increasing the remittances, towards social insurance from what it is now to 2.75%. Even if we were to do that, what benefit will it be to us Kenyans if the very critical personnel within the health sector are not able to do the work that they should do? So I think before we ramp up the contributions, before we talk about all these grandiose plans around social health insurance, one of the first things that any serious government would have done would have ensured that the health personnel, the very critical people that we need in terms of ensuring that we can have access to quality and affordable healthcare, that is where we should have started. So before becoming, starting to think so big about what we can do, let's go back and first of all take care of the issues around, the doctors and the people that work in the hospitals. Because without them, then all of these things that we're trying to do will be not useful to us. Because if you go to hospital and you can't be treated or be looked after by a doctor, then of what purpose is a health insurance scheme for you? If you go to the hospitals and we lack equipment, we lack medication, then of what value is that health cover? So I think we are starting with this from the wrong end. We should go back, and this is an opportunity now for the people that are in charge of running healthcare in this country to start with the basic thing. And the basic thing for me here is, can we have a situation where the personnel that are critical in terms of delivering healthcare in this country, can we sort it out once and for all? Lucy has been talking about the fact that we have very few doctors in Kenya. And then you have this ongoing debate about posting medical interns. I mean, that should never arise in a country like ours that has a serious shortage of qualified, trained, healthcare workers. It should be a no-brainer that medical interns are posted as soon as they need to be posted. And we can't even be talking about an issue of funds. I mean, the last 2 months we've been reading in the newspapers and watching on TV and listening on radio to countless reports from the controller of budget as well as from the auditor general of, extravagant spending on very non-essential and non-important things. So it's not really a question of the lack of money. Ultimately, for me, I will not listen to what you tell me. I will look at the ground, and then I will realize that health is not a priority. in this country. We can wax lyrical about it in terms of all these new laws we are passing, all these new schemes we are creating, but the crux of the matter, where it matters, the priority is not in health. Because if it was, we would channel all our energies, including even by the president himself, would channel all our energies and all our resources to go towards that. Reality on the ground tells me that health is not a priority. We are playing lip service to it.
Pretty much. Mudhoni Nyaga, let me introduce you to the conversation this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Here's the thing. We're doing comparisons of the biggest challenges that the president has actually come into this year, and it's not taken so long for him to pronounce himself on it. I'll take you back to the passport saga in this country and ID registration in this country. I mean, when it became a national crisis, the president did direct the PS and the CS in that particular area to take 3 months max to solve that crisis. The doctors now are entering the second week in their strike, and the president is quiet on it. I mean, there are countless stories that we're picking as Lookuptv of mothers and patients who are getting turned away from these particular hospitals because the hospital administration is telling them, wait, we cannot admit currently as it is because there's no staff that's going to come in and look after you. Is the president silent? Is this not a national crisis now that transcends the ministry into the president's office, where is also going to come in and weigh in on it and give that CS or the ministry help if indeed it's needed now?
Okay, Elijah and my senior colleagues, let me first correct a statement. When we say the president is silent, the president is not silent. The person charged with the Ministry of Health is the Cabinet Secretary. The Cabinet Secretary, that is the Honorable Nakumicha, is definitely not silent. She's doing a lot in terms of conversations, in terms of coming together, bringing together stakeholders of the Ministry of Health and the medics unions to come together and do a solution. Now, the main problem in this strike, at the center of it is a CBA, that there are problems in terms of understanding where do they stand. Now, this CBA was was agreed upon in 2017. It has lapsed. When a CBA lapses, we get another chance to renegotiate the employer and employee relationship. And that is what is happening. Now, if the CS comes and says, you know what, I can't sign a CBA that is not tenable, that is not doable. Let us come back to the table, have a candid conversation about it. Let us agree on objectives that I can actually meet. Then I see a lack of goodwill from the doctors, the striking doctors and medics. Because why would they not sit at a table, try to negotiate so that Kenyans can continue receiving health services? You know, it is very bad when we have a country where we have perennial problems in health sector. Perennial, meaning it has not started with the Kenya Kwanza government. This is an issue that started a long time ago. Let's say even when we devolved, this country devolved, we came from around 8,000 health facilities. We are now at around 14,000 health facilities. That is almost double the facilities that the government has to fund, has to employ medics. Right now, the number of graduates in the medics that are graduating are too high, okay?
Yes.
So we have to start as a country thinking, now how do we make sustainable decisions? How do we make sustainable development? And that is the Kenya Kwanza agenda in the bottom-up economic agenda. So we cannot keep on signing CBAs that are not tenable. We do not have the money.
Yes.
If a cabinet secretary, she even wrote to the treasury advised there is no money to employ the interns at the amount of money they are demanding.
Yes.
Why not sit at a table, agree on an amount that the CS herself will be able to to pay.
Mdoni, this is where the question comes in, and Harrison, I'm going to give you time to also respond to what Mdoni has presented. Now, let's go back to the events. That indeed, this is a CBA as it is. That the government that comes into place must recognize that within that ministry, there are negotiated CBAs that they should pay treaty to. Kenya, azimio members of parliament said, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. You knew the very moment that you walked into that office, that CBA was seated in your office, that you should have started a bit early. It's been almost 2 years. Now the doctors have been waiting for you to respond. You haven't responded. That's why they're in the street. That's not a surprise for you. Why couldn't you start a bit early? That this issue for you has come out now, when the doctors have realized, hey, hold on, there's a CPA that every other government that comes into place has promised us they're going to deliver on. So why didn't she start a bit earlier, Mudhoni?
Now, to answer your question, we have to be cognizant of the fact that the problems, the economic problems in this country are not new to the world. The world is facing economic shocks. We have had the COVID-19. We have had the Israel-Palestine war. We have the Russia-Ukraine war. All these issues have contributed to, economic shocks, and Kenya is no different. It is not left out. So when you say about planning, okay, we cannot plan with what we cannot sustain. What we are saying is that let us sit at the table. The CBA has lapsed. Let us renegotiate. Why do we keep on? We want to continue with that CBA. Okay. We employ these doctor interns. Okay. After 1 year, they have not been paid. Their salaries have been delayed. What then? More strikes, more problems. We add more problems on top of problems. Why don't we just sit at the table, have goodwill from all stakeholders, and do an agreement that is acceptable to all? And I would like to dive also to the issue. There are some, within that CBA, whatever the doctors are demanding that interns are paid is not really what they are supposed to be paid, because the CBA captures employed doctors only. It does not capture interns. Now, interns receive a stipend, okay? It is not a remuneration. They are not employed by anyone. For you to operate as a doctor in Kenya, you have to have a practicing license. For you to have that license, you have to have done 1 year in internship. So what we are saying, we cannot afford to pay intern the salary of a licensed doctor.
And is that where the lie begins? Because we were looking at that particular act, and I will tell you, it is Medical Practitioners and Dentists Act, which is enshrined in our constitution, and I'm going to read it so that we understand. And that's why a majority of them have been calling out CS Nakumincha to resign, because now, number one, she's, as of this morning, issuing a threat to medical doctors on strike. Number one, you continue, you're going to get fired. And number two, when doctors are listening to her make the interpretation that Mudhoni is making this morning, and I will read it. It's under Cap 253, that's the Medical Practitioners and Dentists Act. I will say internship means a prescribed period of employment during which a medical or dental graduate works under supervision to fulfill registration requirements. Now, internship qualifying examination means a written or oral examination of both which determines the suitability of foreign-trained graduates who hold a degree recognized by the council to undergo internship. That this particular act actually says it is a period of employment. In the medical policy, you're supposed to be posted as per policy. The doctors are saying, look here, they make 30% of the workforce in this country. That we do have doctors that are currently ready to go into employment, but they can't get employed because the government is saying we don't have money. Now, the only way to fulfill that is to employ interns during a period which they can actually offer these medical services. So when Nakumincha comes out and says, oh, these are interns, the amount of money they're getting paid doesn't make sense. But remember, what the medical interns are earning is also a negotiated deal that the doctors went to strike over. Is it ever okay, number one, for Nakumincha to say all striking doctors doctors currently as it is. I'm putting your notice. If you continue, you're going to get fired.
First of all, the doctors, they are not talking just about Simba. They are talking about a couple of things. They are talking about the interns. They are talking about patients themselves in the rural areas who are being turned away because they are of the NHIF card. No one is accepting it. And so the question is, okay, we cannot afford. The country has no money. So why do we have to change even the NHIF cover to another cover, which actually needs more deductions from the same doctors, from the same Kenyans? What is the problem with the NHIF? Why do we have patients being turned? I worked in the county governments and I saw this, I experienced it. It has been going on for the longest. The poor worker, the civil servant, or the doctor in this country, it is automatic that that money is deducted. Just like the doctors are saying, the taxes will be taking 52% of their salary, despite even the skyrocketing, cost of living.
Yes.
So if the rural areas, already health is devolved, the rural areas is where all these most of patients are. And they are the same people who go to the doctor and they're turned because the insurance cover doesn't work. Why is it not working? The reason they give them, they say your money has not been remitted by the counties. It has been maybe for the last 7 years that I know. Most counties, people working there, they never undercard that ever worked because the money has not been remitted. The money which has not been remitted, it has been already deducted. Your pay slip, every month, it is minus NHIF fund. Where does this money go? So this is not just a question of not having money. This is a governance issue. Because if you deduct the money from these poor people, automatic, not that you bring, no, it is deducted. Yeah, it is deducted, but it's not remitted. So when you go use your card, you are not getting the services that you're supposed to get. Now, what difference will it make if we change from NHIF to the other cover? So the doctors are also addressing that. So the doctors are standing for the poor patient who was promised that healthcare will be, because most of them, not only the current government, all the candidates, what their priority was healthcare. They were talking about how they are going to make a difference. How do you tell a patient in your country who was looking after you as an hustler that healthcare will be fine, and the doctor who is struggling maybe to take themselves through school, that your CBA will be okay? Then you say, oh, anyway, this CBA has been going on anyway. But I thought when you come in as a new government, you try to correct what was not there. So I think, like Harrison was saying, the president might not talk if he has the right persons to talk. But if anything, what we are getting from these people who are supposed to be the voice of the president is threat.
Yes.
How do you threat doctors? And there's a minister here talking about the carnage on the road. People need attention when they get these accidents. What do they do in the cabinet meetings? When they get there, this is not even an issue of Nakumisha alone. It's supposed to be an issue of the whole cabinet because it touches this, it touches all of them. Are they at the backdrop? It's all about the wellness, the welfare of the Kenyan person.
Yes. Here's the thing.
So,
yes.
So the question of that we cannot afford,
yes,
then we should have priority. Which one is number one? Is healthcare very important, or is it fertilizer, which is very important? How comes we still have ministers in the sectors like the agriculture, but still the president is talking about it? It shows that this is not a priority. So even if you distribute how much fertilizer, and the people you are trying to give the fertilizer, they are not having good health. The people who are struggling to take their sons to school to become doctors, their sons and daughters are not getting jobs. What are you telling? Which priorities are those? We have several ministries. What if this country took like 2, 3 of them? Definitely healthcare, education, zikifuatana in that order. Useme 3, let us deal with these 3. Why do we even have to create, like now something is in court about the CAS, it must be implemented. It is still money. These are extras. But then a doctor is not a priority. A patient who is being chased from the hospital down there, the rural area, the real voter is being chased away from those because their NHIF cannot work. And remember, most of these actually, it is young children who get sick more often. These are people maybe who need things like maybe HIV, all the vulnerable people. And these are the ones who compromise to this, this population of Kenya. They are the ones who go to the hospital every day. These are mothers. These are mothers who are taking their children. These are mothers who are pregnant. These are the people who are being turned. These are people who have had just an accident. They are the ones who are being to find no one at the emergency care. How is that not a priority?
Yes. But I gotta put it to you like this. Because the events, and I want you to listen as well, the events that have happened over the past couple of days during this period when the doctors have been wanting to go on strike. So the doctors are in a negotiation. SRC uses that opportunity to make themselves clear on this matter. And you got to be clear on this. Because that is what sort of also caught the attention of Kenyans. Well, SRC used this particular opportunity to say, well, they recognize them as employees, because SRC would only talk about salaries to people that the constitution recognizes as employees. So you can actually see there's a mismatch there, because Nakumincha is saying these are interns, but in reality, that act recognizes them as full employees. That's why SRC came out in between those negotiations, Harrison. They released a new circular that now states, this is what we think under this current administration, an intern should get paid. In fact, if you look at that cadre of payments that they released, there's a medical intern who's going to take home 13,000 after the statutory deductions. In fact, they are deducted because indeed the Constitution and that Act recognizes them as employees. Yeah. So Nakumincha comes and says, well, these are interns. Well, the Constitution recognizes them as employees. SRC themselves recognizes them as employees. That's what they're telling us. This is exactly how much they should earn. But it doesn't stop there. That even after Treasury wrote back to CS Nakumincha, they just released 3.6 billion. They didn't release 1.2 billion. They didn't say when this money was going to get released. They didn't say in what tranche this money was going to get released. They just said, we just have 3.6 billion. Make do with that. Harrison, look at that. The timeliness of these announcements within a negotiation. It throws off the negotiation, it throws off the faith of negotiation, isn't it? Is it then okay for us to say, maybe now, at this particular time, Nakumincha needs help?
Yeah, and you'll allow me to just say a couple of things about what my colleague Palele said. But one, for me, Simba, all this boils down to what I just said. You can write paragraphs and make beautiful statements about your what you want to do, how you have such a great plan for healthcare and what have you. But for me, I will not look at that. For me, I will look at the crux of the matter. And the crux of the matter is that for this administration so far, based on what is going on currently, health is not a priority. It's not been given the due attention that it needs to. And it cannot be a question of money.
Yes.
Because like I've said, we have been consuming countless reports from the Controller of Budget. And the Controller of Budget is an office that's constitutional and has the mandate of looking at the kind of expenditure that is happening within government. Dr. Margaret Nyakango has been releasing reports every quarter. And what do those reports tell us? We splurge. In fact, I will use her expressions when she appeared before the NADCO committee sometime back last year. She said, we are binging on Fuliza. We are borrowing money and we're not even spending that money in the right places. We're borrowing money and we're using that money to live large. So the argument that there is no money, that we can't afford this, is a non-argument. The money is there. It's a question of priority. The priority for the leadership that is there is not in providing healthcare to the people. Because if it was, you would call the doctors, yes, and you would sit with them and you would discuss this and you would find a very logical solution. You can't even talk about the medical interns being interns, because that is exactly how they become qualified doctors. Mm-hmm. That internship is part and parcel of the training of doctors. Yeah. And therefore, it's supposed to be a given. As soon as you complete your 6 years at the university, you do 1 more year as a medical intern. And that is just how it is. So it's not even an issue that is up for debate or anything. And if you check your records, yes, you'll find that in most public health institutions, it is these medical interns that do the bulk of the work, actually. So they do such a they're doctors. By the time you've completed your 6 years, you're already qualified. Yes. Then you do the 1 year, and now you become registered to practice and all that. So they are not just interns. They are properly well-trained medical professionals. They just have to do that 1 year to satisfy the requirements of the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Act or Union, yes, to become properly registered and recognized doctors. Yes. So for me, it's simple. You can say you mean this, your action says something totally different. And as we speak, yes, right now, yes, the actions of government is that health is not a priority. They may say it is, but in reality it is not. And then one more thing. I have just checked. As per the World Health Organization standards, mm-hmm, the requirement, the desired ratio of a doctor to patients is about 2.5 doctors. So we can say about 3 doctors per, yes, 1,000 people. In Kenya today, as we speak, we have 26 doctors for 200,000 people. We have just about under 14,000 doctors in Kenya today for a population that's approaching 55 million. So there is no doubt that we have a significant shortage, yes, of doctors, mm-hmm, in this country. And therefore, we should be absorbing all the doctors that come from medical school. There should be no question. We should not be talking of we can't afford it. Because if we are serious about giving Kenyans proper health care, yes, one of the key ingredients in giving that proper health care is the number of medical professionals that are available. Yes. And as I am telling you today, we are doing just about 14,000 doctors for a population of 55 million. When the standard should be 10,000. Yeah, yet the standard should be just about 3 doctors for every 1,000 people. We are doing 26 doctors for about 200,000 people. So we are seriously understaffed. Yeah.
Here's the thing, Munoni, but I'm going to give you that chance then to respond to just the order of the events that have happened during this period when doctors issued that threat to go on strike. SRC releases a new document that further deducts the amount of money that medical interns are supposed to get. Number 2 now, CS Nakumincha has said, any other doctor who's going to continue striking, we are going to fire you. And you and I know very well that's not the very first time doctors in this country have been threatened to be fired once they go on strike. Let's begin there. But then, that currently as it is, part of the reason as why they're on the street is because they do not have 1.2 billion to post all the medical interns who are supposed to be posted to these national hospitals and hospitals across the country as per policy, Munoni. And when that money was released, they just released 3.6, devoid of 1.2 billion, and they didn't say how and when they wanted to release the rest of the money. 2, that at this point, when medical practitioners in the country are getting told there's no 1.2 billion, control of budget, like Harrison is saying, comes up with reports. State House blows its budget by 447 million. State House renovations, Deputy President renovations, costs that actually are more than the amount of money that was used to construct these buildings. That someone says, hold on, so we're asking for 1.2 billion and we're told it's not there. But There's a gentleman somewhere who's gone above his budget by 447 million. There's a house somewhere that is getting renovated at a cost that is even 10 times more than we're asking. What is the priority for this particular government? Is it not the correct time now for the president to come in and say, okay, we're in a crisis. Healthcare is one of those things that are very close to me. I mean, chief in itself has a very big stress on human resources. You can't talk about UHC and a chief if you don't have enough doctors and medical practitioners in the country to actually help implement it. But they're not there. Muthoni, at what point are you going to speak about it?
I mean, you have put across many issues, but I think the core issue, it seems we are not understanding each other because, as I've said, it is not necessarily about only the money to pay the medical
of course not.
doctors.
We're going to get to the other issues as well, yes.
Yeah, we also have,
yes,
how much are we paying these medical interns? Now, let me start by saying my senior Lucy says that even you said that the medical interns are recognized as employees. But you have just read the act itself.
Does it?
It says these are employed, but for the reason of learning and attaining a license, so that to practice.
Yes.
It is not permanent and pensionable. Okay?
No, that within that period when you're posted, Muthoni, you are an employee of the government. That's why even your salary is taxed, deducted. You go through the statutory deductions. That's it. That within that one period, the Constitution fully recognizes you as an employee for the government.
I mean, we have to separate the issues. You are employed. We cannot read an act halfway. Yes, you are employed. You're receiving a stipend, but to what end? So that you can get certified as a practitioner who can be employed on permanent and pensionable terms.
That's it. And also
now,
working under supervision. The Act also says working under supervision. That's why 30%. That's why 30% of the medical fields, the workforce is basically interns. That's what they're saying. Yes.
And the CS has not shied off from admitting, yes, there is a crisis that, and she's aware that medical doctors, medical interns are overworking. They're almost doing the job of a permanent and pensionable doctor. She recognizes that. Let us start there.
Yes.
Now, what do we do about this overworking, overloading of medical interns? We start from the conversation from the beginning. We cannot continue making the same perennial problems, piling up on the problem without necessarily having the important conversation. What do we do about this perennial challenge? And that is what the CS and the Kenya Kwanza government are doing. Right now, we have doctors who are under the county governments, and we also have the doctors who are under the national government. Let me tell you, as we speak right now, today, Mandera County, for example, has employed the medical interns under permanent and pensionable. They have been assimilated into permanent and pensionable terms. We have the governor of Nairobi, who is also in the middle of assimilating these people into permanent and pensionable. So it's not like something is not being done, okay? The issue here is, can we sustain paying you 200,000 Kenya shillings as an intern? If you compare the health sector and the education sector, for example, they are teacher interns, okay? Especially in the junior secondary schools.
Yes.
These people who are practicing, and then they are licensed, they have the TSC numbers so they can be employed into permanent and pensionable. They are very fully qualified. Do you know they receive a salary of 20,000 per month? They pay their housing levy.
Yes.
They are taxed. If the money is to be taxed, they are deducted the NHIF.
Yes.
So
they're also going on strike, by the way, in the second term. They're going on strike.
When we get there,
yes,
we will see.
They're going on strike. You say,
when we get there,
yes,
we will see. Now, my point was, if you have 4 children, okay,
yes,
you are a father of 4 children, do you take your favorite child to a national school where they eat chips and sausage every time? And the 3 of the other children, you take them to a primary, to a public school where maybe there are less privileges. No, you gauge these 4 children of mine. Where can I afford to take the 4 children to where they can receive an education? Okay, so that is what we are doing in health, because even as the court said when they ruled that the the strike of doctors should be ceased. In which I want you to understand the continuance of this strike by the medic unions. It is illegal because the court has already ruled that the strike should cease. And the court also went ahead to advise that we should have a one nation approach in terms of dealing with the health crisis, because it has not begun with the Kenya Kwanza government. The doctors have been striking since the era of Mwai Kibaki. We have to stop. Look at the issue where it is. Talk about it. And we have to be willing to come to the table. Now, you say there is no goodwill from the government of Kenya to talk about this issue. Let me tell you, the first day when the union representatives were called, they sent their lawyers, okay? The second day, when the union were called by the CS, Nakumicha, they showed up, but they said they cannot have a conversation with the people who are sent from the Ministry of Health and other government stakeholders because the CS has not showed up. You know, they called it Madharau. Now, when we are looking at technical issues, we have to send the technical people who are able to inform on the decision. Because let me say, when you are paying an intern, a doctor intern, 206,000 Kenya shillings. At the same time, you're paying a teacher 20,000 Kenya shillings, an intern. Yet the Constitution recognizes that the right to education, the right to health are both rights in equal terms. There is no one right that is more, one right that is less. So why don't we talk about where the government can actually sustain? Because it's not a matter only, when we talk about money, it is not a matter only about paying these doctors. It is a matter of sustaining for future interns. Why can't we come to the table as good with Kenyans, talk about it? You know, and my colleague has also raised the issue of why we are shifting from NHIF to NSS to SHIF. Now, let me say, Kenya is trying to, the Kenya Kwanza government is trying to achieve the universal health coverage, which has not been done before under the NHIF. Now, for NHIF, those that used to pay, which was a voluntary contribution, you would go to hospital, maybe receive your services, and where about those people who are not able to contribute for the same, or who are not committed to contributing towards NHIF? So definitely from the word go, the NHIF was failing. That's why we are doing a turnaround with the SHIF. And with the SHIF, the UHC, where we have the primary health coverage, the SHIF, then we have the ECCCIF. We are looking at expanding the benefits of health. Right now, under the UHC, we can say that someone who is suffering from non-communicable diseases, for example, cancer, which is a main menace in this country, can go use the SHIF and get services for kidney dialysis and all that. Under NHF, that was not possible. Why are we doing, you know, I also had an issue being raised about the mandatory payment of the SHIF. Now, and I followed the proceedings yesterday at Milimani, where a friend Gatia said, we have to differentiate between a constitutional right and a public service, okay? We have to differentiate the two. For example, let me again compare to education sector. The Constitution recognizes that basic education is a right to every Kenyan child, okay? Is there mandatory, does the public service demand mandatory attendance of school? Yes, it does. Does that mean that people are taken out of, they don't benefit from the provision of the Constitution that they have a right to education? No, those are two different issues. So we can, as a country, we look at where we are. The UHC has 3 funds, okay? There's the primary healthcare coverage, which is free. No mwananchi is being asked to pay for that. When a community health volunteer comes to your house, she or he will not ask for any payment. Then we have the ECCIF, which is absolutely free. We are only contributing for the SHIF, which is 490 billion, that is around 149 billion Kenya shillings. everyone has to contribute.
That's it.
Everyone has to register for it to work. How does the health sector plan how to give health services and health facilities to 54 million Kenyans if we cannot know that the age group of these people is this? They are registered.
Yes.
These are the expectations we expect, the medical requirements. Then we plan from there.
Does it? Mudhoni, and I'm coming back to you, Lucy. You hear how Mudhoni has gone back to the proper argumentation. Can I give you? Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just a little interjection. I think it's unfair for my colleague to try to draw a line between teachers and doctors, and with all due respect, because the work that doctors do is a very specialized and very unique set of skill and qualifications. That's why even at the point of entering university, there are certain requirements that you have to fulfill to enter medical school. Beyond that,
I don't know whether my colleague is trying to say that for you to be a teacher, you can just teach.
Lucy, I'm coming to you. I'm giving you all the time.
It's an important point to be made.
Yes.
Even in terms of the length, the duration to complete your medical degree program, it's very different from the length of time you need to complete.
Course as well.
Yeah, as well. So I think it's unfair to want to draw a parallel between a teacher intern and a medical intern, because those are worlds apart, and it's very unfair.
Pretty much. Lucy, but as you respond to that, and I want to take actually 3 minutes because I want to take a tiny breather and then come back again to continue with this conversation. We're not saying it's a bad thing to go into a negotiation. We're saying the faith of a negotiation, that probably at this time, that's when CS Nakumincha would have told SRC, not now. I really want to get away with this negotiation pain points fast before we get to that point where once we agree, Mudhoni, that this is exactly what we want. If we don't have money, let's standardize these payments of medical interns that we're pushing into the medical field. Then we will then come to an agreement with SRC that this is exactly how much each of them should be getting paid in the various cadres. That you're going into a negotiation, but somebody says, nah, you see now, on this particular issue, which, by the way, they were not negotiating on it, this is exactly how much they should be earning. Again, on top of that, another threat comes that, hey, if you go back to the streets, we're going to fire you. The skills of negotiation, just how you drive these conversations, you feel that the CS is not at the top of it, because SRC couldn't have released that circular. That right now, it could have been too early for you to say we're going to fire any other doctor who's striking.
Simba, first of all, I tell Mudhoni, NHIF has never been voluntary, so it was automatic deduction. I don't know if you have ever been employed by anybody, you have employed yourself. It has never been voluntary. UHC is not just coming, it has been there. I was in Public Service Commission. And UHC was tried in 5 counties, and I would attest it failed. My county was one of them, Isiolo County. So the way Mudhoni is saying is like UHC is something new which has just come. When you do piloting, is you want to check if something will work. So if you never worked actually in 5 counties, I don't think it's going to work. So anyway, the other one is about what Harrison just said. With all due respect, we cannot compare teachers and doctors. I'm not saying teachers do not do work, good work. They do. In all the countries all over the world, the most noble job is that of medical fraternity. A doctor works around the clock. A teacher goes to class from 8 to 5 and goes home. A doctor is even on call. There's an accident, they are all called, trained, they are running there. The doctor, the teacher is. The number of teachers we have in this country, there are so many of them. So that makes the work easier for them. But the number of doctors, we just said, they are only 26,000. 14,000. Can you imagine 14,000 doctors? And now here we sit here to demean them when they are trying to work for almost 55 million people round the clock. A doctor works 20. There are even doctors who have no time even for their own families. Yes. They're working at night. We are sleeping. You get sick at night, rush them to the hospital. Is it a teacher you're going to find there or a doctor? So anyway, so let us respect the doctors. They do a great job. Our doctors, we appreciate you so much. And if there's anyone who deserves anything before us, politicians, anyone, should be the doctors. So the doctors must be respected. And yes, if it was a priority for Kenya Kwanza government, I don't see anything wrong with the president initiating the talk, even if we hear him saying even, CS, I want this meeting tomorrow. Yes. It's not the doctors who are supposed to initiate the talk. They have already initiated. By demonstrating and showing that there's a problem, we are uncomfortable, the patients are not okay, the interns are not okay, our health care, it's not okay. So that is already a sign of initiating a talk. Yes. They have cried for 7 years. They have now been crying the whole of this month. But if anything is intimidation, it is undermining them. You can even say the day they were doing peaceful demonstration, the Secretary General was shot. Even now I see him walking with bandages on his head. Yes. Why did he have to get all that force from police? The doctors do not carry guns. They were not carrying stones. They were not politicians. There was nothing political. They are just saying, please give us our dues. Please incorporate these interns so that our health care can work. Yes. Please let us not make the rural patients suffer because of NHIF, which is not working, or money that are not being remitted, or money because the money has been deducted from these people's pay slips. But then you take it to any hospital, your money was not remitted. Why don't we hear them following these counties that never remitted the money? Where is that money? These are the monies we should be collecting so that we can get money for our interns.
Pretty much. Yes. Guess what, Harrison? Yeah. But I want to point you, take 2 minutes on this because we're going to go for a tiny breather then come back on it. Yeah. This is what the KMPDO Secretary General is saying, and I'll read it to you. Covered on our website on www.lookuptv.co.ke. Here's the thing. I said we're given a slot of 2,000 medical interns at each posting point. And in that, we only need 1.4 billion. Done. But then it goes on to say, a document by the Ministry of Health and Salaries Remuneration Commission shows that a medical intern is on the lowest cadre. The lowest earner will get a stipend of 27,000, while the highest will go home with a 70,000 shillings. But then the KMPDO Secretary General notes like this. I mean, the CBA that locked the payment terms for interns was locked and signed. Then goes on to note, why would the Ministry of Health and SRC go back and revise a CBA that we're not even on the street over, and without involving us, just come and give us a document and tell us this is exactly how much they should earn. On that basis, they then called for CS Nakumincha to go home. On that basis alone, that it was a locked CBA with locked agreements and locked terms. You went back and told SRC to revise it. You give us a document and you want us to go back and take it home. Should she go home on a basis?
I mean, if we were a country that values human life, just because of the crisis and how it has played out, yes, she could go home. On that basis. On that basis alone. On that basis. But this speaks to the lack of goodwill and the well-meaning intention from the side of those in power. Because if you remember, the 2017 CBA was the result of a very protracted strike that even ended up, we for the first time we saw union leaders taken to jail. I don't know if you remember. I do. The 10 doctors were taken in, and then they said we can't live in South. Please take us out. Absolutely. Guess what, Harrison? I'm going to leave you there. We're going to come back with you on that. But then I'm going to be asking you the same question. That if SRC and the Ministry of Health then can go back
and open a locked terms CBA, revise it without involving the doctors, and then come push the document with them. On that basis alone, should she go home? Because KMPDU is saying, no, we can't negotiate with her on those terms. Guess what? We're still talking on this particular issue on the medical doctor strike, the healthcare crisis in the country, asking the question, where it has gotten to, should the president come in and speak, just like he's spoken on fertilizer, accidents in the country, insecurity in the country, where we've seen him direct those CSs to come up with solutions within a stipulated time. Should he do the same with health? Once we come back right here on the Morning Drift.
Buy Credo Chap Chap across all networks bila stress. Go to M-Pesa paybill number 33000. Na uweke account number yako na namba ya simu that you want to recharge. It's quick, convenient and hassle-free. In just a few clicks, buy airtime. M-Pesa paybill 33000. Account, your number to stay topped up and connected anytime, anywhere. Chap Chap. Open University of Kenya, which was chartered on the 3rd of August 2023, aims to revolutionize higher education by breaking down barriers such as cost, previous exam grades, and geographical location through online open learning at the comfort of your home, job, etc., thus ensuring accessibility to education for all members of the society. In a nutshell, Open University of Kenya leverages technology to deliver education.
Open University has brought a new door in the Kenya education system, where learners are able to access education in a flexible, affordable, and all-inclusive.
Intakes ongoing for May and September. For more information, call us on 0202000211 or 0202000212 or email us at info@ouk.ac.ke. Open University of Kenya, an innovative university for inclusive prosperity. Next on Hapa Kazi Tu.
Na leo tunaangazia biashara ya urembo. Unashughulika na mambo gani?
Nywele, makucha, facials, massage, waxing. So we survive with client getting satisfaction and referring another person and being comfortable to come again and again and again. One thing that is very important is you working on yourself and you kutaka kujua more skilled. What are people doing that I'm not doing that I need to do to be in the next level?
Hapa Kazi Tu, every Friday at 8 p.m.
Welcome back to Lookuptv. This is the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Kiage. We have 30 minutes and left for this particular conversation. I'll be picking the closing sentiments of our panelists on set this morning. Before we move into other issues, the majority of Kenyans are also waking up to this morning. Harrison, I'm going to go back to you before I go back to Mudhoni on the basis of we are negotiating. We're not saying that this CBA can change, because each other government comes in, just like Mudhoni is saying, and they have their different ways of approaching their issues in these ministries that they are faced with. But on the basis of, we're within a negotiation, and that's when we get threats, that's when we get these new documents coming from SRC that are revising locked terms in other CBAs that go back all the way to 2017. On that basis alone, Nakumincha has even come in and said, and by the way, Mudhoni, you pay tribute to this. She's come in to say, we have no money. whatever they're asking for, because whatever the doctors are asking for, if you look at it in totality, it's going to cost 142.9 billion to actualize. CS is coming and say, we have no money. In other terms, I'm helpless. In other terms, I am helpless. We have no money. Whatever the doctors are talking about can be implemented now as they want it to be implemented. On that basis alone, shouldn't now this be a national crisis that the relevant government agencies have not had the DP speak about it, the way he's spoken about the alcohol menace in this country. I've not had the president speak about it, the way he's spoken about accidents in the country and the fertilizer issue in the country, that up to now, we are waiting for a concerted effort from the government to solve it. We haven't seen it. It's still a Minister of Health issue.
It is a crisis. I mean, this should be a crisis for any government that cares about the well-being of its people. I mean, when your doctors are on strike across the country, and especially in the critical public health sector, that's a crisis, because it means you're bound to have people losing their lives. You're bound to have people developing further medical complications because they are not able to get the attention that they need. So it's a crisis. It demands utmost prioritization at the highest level of leadership, and that's what we should be seeing. And perhaps, Simba, this brings a conversation that has been there, and right now no one is talking about it, but it makes me wonder, because we had similar problems in 2017 with the doctor strike that yielded the CBA that we've been talking about. 7 years later, we are back to that same place. What's going to say that we will not be back here in another 3-4 years' time? Might it be an idea to finally seriously consider what the doctors have been saying for a while now? The formation of a health service commission that will principally be responsible for issues of personnel and human resource as far as the doctors are concerned. You see, something modeled around what you have the Parliamentary Service Commission, or like Teacher Service Commission. Maybe take the personnel and the labor issues away from ministry and create this specialized commission that can then be responsible for handling matters of postings, matters of payments and benefits and what have you. Maybe that is a solution. Going forward. Maybe it's time to bring about a health service commission, as the doctors have been saying all along. Because it seems at both national and county level, we can't seem to properly handle the personnel and human resource issues.
Mudhoni, just as you give us your closing statements on this, because you can hear what Arison is saying. Arison is saying, well, bring in a commission that just handles this. I'll read for you that statement again. I keep on referring to the notes of the KMPDU Secretary General. Here's what he said, that intern salaries were secured in a collective bargaining agreement in 2017, where it was the most controversial issue. We'll go on with the strike until these issues are resolved. So this new directive again by the Ministry of Health and SRC is just negating a CBA that was signed back in 2017. You see, the thing is, if you negate that, then majority of that CBA becomes null and void, Mudhoni, because promotions have not been done yet. They were asking for comprehensive insurance cover that has not been done yet. Payment cutters have not been done yet. Up to now, even postings and employments as well, it's not been done in that CBA.
I'm so happy that you are saying this has not been done yet, this has not been done yet, and that is the issue. That is the problem that we are looking at. And before I go to that point, let me address my senior. She said that doctors have to be respected. No one has disrespected them. By comparing the public service interns, we are not disrespecting doctors. Right now, even there's doctor interns, then there's the clinical officers interns, okay? These interns, under the new propositions of the CBA, they are being paid 35,000 as a minimum to, I think, 50,000, which is an increment from the previous 15,000. So it's not like something positive is not being done. And it is all about equalizing what we offer the different cadres of medic interns.
Why revise a CBA? Why revise a CBA? Why would you revise the CBA, which is the same reason as why they're on strike? The same question that I was
asking.
Yeah,
and you keep asking. You keep saying that we are the Ministry of Health is negating the CBA that is existing.
Yes, they're revising
Let me say it elapsed. And when it elapsed, we have a chance again to renegotiate. Let me say,
it's called
when you say,
terms.
It has lapsed. When a CBA lapsed, we come again and renegotiate the terms of engagement between the employee and the employer. Now, even the court was diligent enough to note that this is a multi-plenary issue, okay?
Yes.
There are many sectors, public sectors involved. There's the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Health, there's the Ministry of, what do we call it? Public Service. So it is many ministries coming together. Now, if from the SRC, they can only afford, or the Treasury can only afford to sustain, you know the word is sustain. Right now we can wake up and say, fine, we'll pay the medic interns 206,000. But then again, we come to the same issues. The doctors won't be paid, they will be overworked, there will be no medicine in the hospitals, there will be no equipment in the hospitals. So what the CS is doing, coming back to the table, to the drawing table, starting again the conversation. And that is what is needed in this country. For so long, we have done, and let me say the previous government, there are these decisions that were made just in the streets. Okay, you want 200,000 Kenya shillings? Fine. You want this road? Fine. But at what cost? Is it sustainable? And that is what the Kenya Kwanza government is doing under President William Ruto. He even said at the beginning of his term that we have to live within our means. Living within our means has to cut across every sector. Has to cut across every sector. Now, we cannot sustain medical interns at 200,000 Kenya shillings. We have to lessen that money so that we are able to
pretty much.
Even.
Yes.
And when she says that the doctors are not being posted, the interns, let me say Nakumita has started today. The interns can go for their posting letters from today. By April, they will not be posted.
For 8 months. But they've not been posted. There's a huge backlog as well that she's not addressed on it. And the amount of money they've been given by Treasury is not going to catch up. It's not going to catch up.
Yes, and you keep on saying that you should still pay them 200,000 Kenya shillings. Which is not tenable. How? It's not sustainable.
But at the point, the point they're haggling upon is that what you're saying is going to start in April, but you've not even told us what you're going to do with the backlog.
Not going to start in April. It is starting today, today morning. And the last day for posting is by April. I think maybe 14th or something. I'm not sure.
Yes, but the pool of the ones that are getting posted are the ones who are previously not posted. There's still another backlog of the ones that are sitting at home waiting for that posting.
Yeah, and why don't we give her a chance? She is going to assimilate all this. They are going to be posted.
But Mudoni,
but under conditions that are sustainable.
That's it.
We have to have sustainability.
Take 45 seconds then on this. But please, if you can. And I'll be coming to for 45 seconds as well, Lucy. So we can close this subject and look at other issues this morning. That it's a bit worrying then that within a negotiation, without involving the doctors then to start going back on this CBA, you would release new payment terms for these interns, and it's a bit too early maybe to start telling the doctors we're going to arrest you if you go on strike. So what if she's also telling them that we have no solution for the issues that are coming from you? Are you getting confused by the communique that is coming from the Ministry of Health?
Let me also comment on you keep saying that she has said she will fire you if you don't report to her. Now the court has ordered, okay? The strike should stop. So is it a legal strike or is it an illegal strike? It is an illegal strike. So when you abscond duty, the CS, the employer, has the mandate to employ someone who is willing to work. I mean, there are over 8,000, as you keep saying. There are over 8,000 licensed doctors who are not yet employed. Why don't we employ those who are willing to work? Because this is an illegal strike, as the court has said. So why are they keeping on with the strike? It doesn't even make sense, and it shows that there is no goodwill.
Yes.
There's no goodwill on the part of the union. Yes, the union is very important. Protesting is a constitutional right. It is enshrined in the constitution. It is very important. The only way we make progress, we make change, the only way we develop as a country, we have to obey the constitution. We have to look at the court orders. Now, the CBA has lapsed. When it lapses, it gives another chance for negotiation. Now, the SRC comes and says, according to other cadres and according to other medical interns in other countries with similar economic strength like us, without putting physical stress on our economic ability right now as per se, we have to reduce that amount. And it is not only reducing the amount, it is posting them where their equipment, it is posting them where their protection garments, it is posting, and also with the increase.
So why can't you first involve them? Because they're on strike on that particular issue.
And that is the conversation that is going on.
Yes, but
all these meetings are geared towards making a new CBA.
It looks done and dusted. That SRC will release that and say this is exactly what we can afford. But then the doctor is saying, well, there's a new one again. So why can't you involve us?
Simba.
Yes.
If the argument,
if
the argument is that the CBA has lapsed, and so you need to begin a new conversation.
Yes.
You can use that lapsed CBA as the basis for this new conversation that you're having. You don't have to create a whole new basis, and especially when the doctors are saying it may have lapsed, all right, but even the CBA itself was never honored. The terms of it were never honored to begin with.
Exactly, they were never honored because they were not tenable.
No, because there's no goodwill. Because there was no.
Because the previous government made the decision on the street.
And I like that she keeps saying the previous government. Yet the same players who are in this government were the key players in that very government.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, if you can allow me, we're getting forward. We have to look at other issues that are also very much importance to our country this morning. Sheila, if you can take us to the front page of the Standard, because there's an issue there that we have to look at as a panel this morning. The majority of Kenyans are waking up to and saying, hold on, what is really going on this particular one? And there are two of them. Number one is that indeed both SHIF and the housing levy are in court now. They're getting challenged again. And number two, it turns out the majority of Kenya Kwanza members of parliament or allied members of parliament in the National House
don't read.
In fact, they can't face their constituents because when it comes to their true faith, majority of the things they're passing in that National House in an omnibus format, they are part and parcel against majority of them. So let's talk about that first. That indeed, majority of Kenya Kwanza members, look, see if you can, this morning, even in issues to do with the finance bill, and most notably, and I will take you back to what even the deputy president caught himself in the tongue one of these fine days, when he actually said even some of the tax issues that we passed in that finance bill that were taxing farmers in the country, that they have to go back and relook at them. That even them themselves, they're passing without reading, and when they're faced their constituents, they again tell them, we're going to look into it. But they passed it. They said it was the best thing ever. We have 7 minutes for the show. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Lucy.
So what does that tell you? First of all, if you can just sign or pass a document without reading, and you are the eyes, you are the ears, you are the mouth of the people you are representing in that parliament. You just pass a bill, which is supposed actually to go to the wananchi, let them participate, explain to them, because we are assuming you read and you understand what you are telling. And so what does that tell you? Just sycophancy. Is that going to help our country? Do we just say honestly things for the sake of saying, or for the sake of the good of the Kenyan person? It should be for the good of the Kenyan person. Right now they are saying, oh yeah, I think we should look at it. Yeah, we never read. Can you trust such a person again? And now of course, you're saying the Kenya Kwanza MPs and legislators. And those are the people who formulate the government. Now we have Nakumincha and the ministers there. if these people who are elected to represent, they have a responsibility from the people, the electorate,
Yes.
can just pass things for the sake of passing.
That's all.
How about someone who was just a depict and just there because you supported? Definitely you sing the song, and the sufferer will be that Kenyan who voted, that Kenyan who had very high expectation, who was promised heaven, and now they're in hell. And the part of the heaven was this health care we've been talking about.
That's all.
So I think we're in a very bad state. And actually, it's not about money. It has nothing to do with the monies. Because even the monies that we have, nothing is being planned. It is an administration, it is a legislative issue, it is a governance issue.
That's all.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yes.
This one, Harrison, I'm going to read for you that, and then this is very concerning again. Munoni, I hope you listen to it as well. It's a controversial tax on farm produce. It's a government that said they're going to promote farming in this country and agricultural produce in this country. In fact, they had a very, very good vision for it by 2025. Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua made a U-turn after backlash over the controversial tax it planned to impose on farm produce. And you did see that once Cairo officials went back now for sensitization on a bill that we had passed, in some parts of central Kenya, they were kicked off a public hearing.
Yes.
I think I have argued in other places when I've looked at Parliament, and I've looked at Parliament over the last 10 years in particular.
Yes.
There is no cost-benefit analysis for the Parliament that we have to the Kenyan people. I'll tell you why. Over the last 10 years, when Kibaki exited the stage, we had a public debt that was just, I think, about 6 trillion Kenyan shillings.
Yes.
That public debt, as we speak today, is 11 trillion, heading towards 12 and continuing. Who are the people that have the responsibility to safeguard and to ensure that not only are we collecting resources, we're using those resources appropriately. If we are borrowing for the right things.
Yes.
We are spending it on the right things. Parliament. What does parliamentarians do? Sing the song that they are given to sing from State House and elsewhere. That's why they will pass a bill that they've not read, because they've been told you have to. So what is the purpose? What is the purpose of Parliament? If Parliament is a conveyor belt, if Parliament is a mere institution that is there in letter, but in reality it's not there.
Also, what is the function of a member of Parliament? Is it also not to play within the politics of your party? If your party wants this to pass, you gotta pass it, Harrison.
That may be the case.
Yes.
But why then do you turn around and say, hold on a minute.
Yes.
We passed this thing.
Yes.
But this thing is wrong. If it was your party's song,
yes,
and you sang it,
yes,
then sing it and live with it.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
But your party, yes, your party has a manifesto.
But that's what I'm saying. Then do we need a parliament? If parliament is not critical,
yes,
if parliament cannot tell the executive, no, this priority, this policy is wrong, this law is wrong, this taxation policy is wrong. If parliament cannot do that, why do we need parliament?
We should be appointing. We should then be appointing just party members to represent, because the work of a member of parliament is to represent, to oversee, and to make laws that are favorable to every Kenyan. And how come some of them are not bad? Now remember Wamushomba. Remember Wamushomba's time? Wamushomba, and to say, oh look, okay, as much as the party is saying we go blindly without even looking, I'm sure she went through it, and she said, let me go consult my
constituents, and they're saying this is not essentially.
And then they said no, and she had to say no. So those are the kind of leaders we want. It's not opposing the government. When thing is right, just go for it. We have seen azimio members voting some motions, which are like they are brought by the government, but so long as it is making sense, it is for the citizen of Kenya, and they vote for it.
Mudhoni, I want you to weigh in on that, Harrison. I'll be coming back to you in 2 minutes if you can, Mudhoni. Are you ever concerned that a whole deputy president will come in and say, oh, we made a mistake here, we got to go back again, when they realize backlash over this particular? And you're ever concerned by a Kenya Kwanza member of parliament who will say, But we never read it. We're told to pass it.
I mean, doesn't that show the goodwill of the government? Because if someone at the status of a deputy president can come and say, you know, we were wrong, let us go back to the drawing table. Isn't that goodwill? Is it that being able to accept that, yes, we made a mistake? Let us redo it again. There's no perfection.
How can they be wrong? How can they be wrong?
There's this idea.
When you read the backlash, you know, especially of the farmers, when KRA now tells them, you see, you passed this, you are told what it's going to do, your members of parliament came and told you exactly what this is, you passed it, now let's tell you how you're going to contribute, and then they get kicked out.
It's unfortunate that when we are arguing about the policies that are good, the policies that are bad, we have to paint the government, or at least we have to paint the other team as people who are completely like way off, okay? It is unfortunate. I cannot come here and start saying, you know, the azimio have done this, they have not done this, they have not done, they are not doing this. No, I analyze from which point they make bad decisions and they correct themselves.
Is this a bad decision? Not reading the finance bill?
There is no perfection in governance. Not even in the United States. Not even in the UK. Not even nowhere.
Mudoni, on the basis of pass it. We started it, pass it. You don't gotta read it. I mean, do you remember the sentiments of the president?
I mean, it is. I'm not shying. Personally, I'm not shying off from saying it is unfortunate. But right now, we have gone back to the drawing table, which is a good move. Instead of keeping on saying, blaming, oh, you know, we did, so what?
I think
we are going back. We are having a candid conversation. We are bringing ourselves to the table. Even the DP. Never in this country has ever a deputy president come out and say, by the way, we were wrong. We made a mistake. We are honest.
So when the DP says,
that a goodwill?
When the DP says, we were wrong, it's essentially putting those members of parliament on the spot. I mean, public participation should be the biggest.
If you look at, let's say, managing your own household,
we're coming to you.
Are you is it perfect? No, you make mistakes. But the ability to come back to the table and say, look, I made a mistake. Let's go back to the drawing table.
A mistake or an oversight where you don't completely read it.
It's not a mistake. And I'll say it's not a mistake. Why? When the finance bill was being processed through parliament, there were countless public hearings that were happened. There were countless discussions on television that were done. And 90%, the record, 90% of views from Kenyans were that so many provisions within that finance bill then were untenable, including
I don't know including
I will tell you where. I will tell you. There was an opinion poll that was conducted that told us the pollsters in Kenya. I think that was Ipsos.
There are pollsters in Kenya who work for who?
Can I make my point? I don't interrupt you. Don't interrupt me.
In 15 seconds.
So the point is, this was an obvious mistake that was made. The members of parliament completely ignored any contrary opinion. And that's why, by the way, these laws are facing the hurdles they're facing in court. Because the MPs in parliament would not listen to anyone that had a contrary opinion and telling them, hold on a minute. For example, the housing bill. Government was told, you can't pass this levy, you can't start levying this thing before you have a legal framework in place. They ignored, went straight ahead and levied it. People went to court. What did the court say? There's no legal framework for this thing. You can't be charging it. If they had listened, they would have saved themselves this trouble. So if they had listened to the views that were given during the public participation forums, the deputy president wouldn't have to own up to anything, because the members of parliament would have been diligent in their work. They would have read the bill, they would have listened to the views of the Kenyans, and they would have incorporated that in the law that they passed. Ultimately, for me, it cost us billions to keep that parliament in place. It cost us many more billions to hold elections every 5 years so that we can get members into this house. They're supposed to safeguard our interest. They're supposed to do good by us. So we are wasting billions in elections, electing people. We are wasting more billions, sustaining them every 5 years. They don't do their work. They sing the song that they've been told to sing. Then when they make obvious mistakes, which people had told them you're going to make a mistake, then they want to come back and no one is talking about perfection. But surely, when the evidence is there and everyone has told you this is wrong and you don't listen to it, you cannot come around and say you made a mistake.
Pretty much. Guess what? We gotta end it there. My director is beating me up. We gotta step out of the studio. Mudoni, Harrison, and Lucy, thank you very much for gracing our panel this morning. Guess what? That continues. We're going to see exactly how this particular strike ends. Currently, as it is, the courts are clear. It's an illegal strike. CS is saying any other person who goes to the street, you're going to get arrested. How that goes, whether the president is going to speak on it or any other eventually that comes out of it, for us, it is to ask the questions and seek the answers from our panel that we keep on inviting right here on the Morning Drift every single morning. We take a tiny break, and once we come back, I'll be telling you a story of Cleft Palate. Somebody realized that they didn't have a problem. Now they are empowering those people in the same area. Once we come back right here on the Morning Drift.
Jamaa jo, mazena inflation jo na hii mafuta venye mepanda jo, mmefika at the right time. Mimi nakwambia wachezaji saa hizi tu ni kutoka hapa, kuingia mtaa, kutengeneza sima, wadishifiti, alafu tutane grau.
Leo tuko katika center inaitwa Kimta, ambapo hapa ni sehemu ambapo wanafunzi ama vijana wadogo wanakuja hapa kusoma, wanakuja hapa kukuza talanta yao, na wanakuja pia kujiinua kielimu.
Now through Kimta and the groups like Tatua Tatu, through pads, wasichana wataendelea kuendea shule vizuri, at the same time watakuwa healthy.
Yote ni kwa hisani ya Tatua Foundation. Na wakati wote ambapo unacheza Tatua Tatu, kumbuka kwamba asilimia 25 inakuja kusaidia masuala kama haya. Kwa hivyo endelea kucheza Tatua Tatu.
University of Nairobi is a distinguished institution of higher learning dedicated to nurturing your intellectual curiosity and pushing the boundaries of knowledge. From state-of-the-art laboratories to modern libraries equipped with the latest resources, we provide you with the tools you need to succeed. Choose from a wide range of programs designed to prepare you for challenges of tomorrow's world.